100 questions on betrayal. I decided to put together a list, and I'll be doing this for betrayal. I'll be doing this for partners that ask questions about addiction, and then I'll also answer 100 questions about relationship. I also have a little segment that's going to be about AI and betrayal when it comes to AI. So, my name is Cheryl Camarillo, and let's go ahead and get into the first questions. I'm a certified sex addiction therapist, so some of this stuff is just going to be automatically coming off the top of my head. The first question is, why do I feel crazy after finding out about the betrayal? I just have to let you know that if you've asked, am I losing my mind this week? Stop. I'm about to explain the neuroscience of why betrayal makes you insane and why that feeling makes your brain um, makes your brain actually it makes your brain feel like it's actually doing its job. It's supposed to be looking for any kind of danger. That's the neuroscience behind this. At the beginning of time, it was all about kind of finding ways to keep yourself safe so you could stay alive. And in the animal kingdom, that's the same you know profile that goes on there. And so with cheating, it's going into the same space. It's like fight or flight, or freeze. And so that's your brain trying to figure out how to protect you. And so if that means that you're going to be having mood instability, or you're going to be, having all kinds of other things like hypervigilance, or a lot of, emotional disturbances. There's just a variety of things that come out that look like post traumatic stress disorder, and actually betrayal trauma being the name, it's got a lot of the same things, except specific to betrayal trauma, it's a person that's been exposed to someone that has had a lot of secrets. So there is such a thing as betrayal blindness. Your brain is going to say, I really don't want to look at what I'm seeing, and so I'm just going to put that away. You might tell yourself, I'm just being paranoid. You might have a partner that tells you you're being paranoid. So you just learn to put that away. Your brain is also trying to look at two different realities that are coming together and crashing. The first reality is that I'm in a happily ever after kind of relationship, or a semi, connected relationship. At least trust is there. And the other reality is when you discover that your partner's been, um, you know, cheating, or has some kind of other addiction, whether it's to AI or it's to porn, if it's going to massage parlors. There's just a variety of ways that somebody can show up and change your reality in the blink of an eye. Um, the other thing is that there's a lot of disorientation because you're trying to get your footing. So it's one of those things where you're trying to stay focused, but there's so many questions flooding you, and there's so many reliving of the moment that's flooding you, and a lot of questions about, what am I supposed to do moving forward? So you're looking at the past, you're looking at the future, and you're looking at the present, and it's not looking too good. Okay. Question number two is it normal to check his phone constantly after discovering betrayal? So, you've checked his phone 6 times a day and you feel ashamed of it. Don't be. Let me tell you actually what's happening in your nervous system right now. Hypervigilance, this is hypervigilance. It's a trauma symptom. It's not paranoia, and the nervous system is just searching for the next threat. It's looking for the threat so that it can react and do what it needs to in order to save you. So it's also very healthy for you to have that response. And it's good when it's in the beginnings of recovery. It does become an issue or a problem if the partner's been doing the work that they need to do as far as the addictive or behavior issue, and the betrayed partner seems to be still having strong emotions and lots of questions and difficulties. So it does become, a problem at some point, but that usually requires that a therapist, gets involved and is able to give feedback. Let's see. The third question is, here we go. Why can't I stop replaying the details over and over and over? Well, there's a reason you can't stop replaying it, and it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because your brain is trying to finish a story it was never given the ending to. So now you're sitting there, you've just found something out, you need answers, you're probably not getting answers, and therefore your little brain here has to decide, what do I want to do? Well, for a lot of people, they start filling in the blanks. They have a question and they fill in the blank with the worst possible scenario ever. And so that makes a person feel very scared, and they're, functioning off of fear. So they want to do whatever they can. It's because, there's a lot of intrusive thoughts, and the brain is just trying to figure out why there's this new narrative that it never knew was happening. Um, so the brain now has to figure out what's real, what's not real, and it's going to be very difficult unless your partner is very clearly stepping up to the plate and offering information. The difference between processing and ruminating has to do with, I'm thinking it through, I'm trying to problem solve, I'm grieving, or I'm getting very emotional, and that's going to last for a short period of time. And then you decide you're going to move into a problem solving mode. All right. So the next question is, why have I lost my appetite? Can't stop eating since I found out. Betrayal doesn't just live in your heart, it lives in your stomach, your sleep, your appetite. Here's what's actually happening in your body right now. The cortisol and the stress response is affecting your digestive and appetite. So the betrayal trauma is a body level event, it's not just emotional. Um, you know, we have so many more nerve endings in our digestive area than in our brain. And so that means the part that really rules everything that's going on with you, including your health and other systems, and sleep and ability to have energy and things like that. That comes from the digestive system and its ability to continue to work effectively, and that's very difficult when the digestive system is saying, "Oh my God, everything horrible is happening here." So a good book out there for you to read in this kind of situation is The Body Keeps the Score. That is an excellent book to read on understanding the brain, and then also understanding why certain interventions work better than others. So question number 4 is, why can't I sleep, or why am I having nightmares since discovering the betrayal? So if it's 3 a.m. and your mind won't stop running the tape, this one's for you. Hyperarousal and the nervous system are stuck in the on position. It's, it's everything was fine, discovery happened, boom, a crisis happens. And now it's like the switch that says, start scanning and doing what you can. And the nervous system, trying to figure out, like, what's it going to do? How's it going to respond? What are, do you have anxiety, do you have anger, all of that stuff is being impacted. And the other piece is that you need to be able to start thinking about um, your sleep hygiene, and the consistent sleep is going to help you shut your mind down, and that requires doing things like sleep hygiene, cutting off your your technology a couple of hours before you go to bed, taking some time maybe to do journaling, taking a nice shower. It could be that you have some rituals that you do, including a little bit of reading, talking to your partner, if you feel like your partner is safe again. So those are some things to think about. It's also helpful to, like, have the room be cool. It's helpful to have fresh, clean bedroom, so that you don't have additional things to worry about. It makes your brain feel good to know that there's some kind of order around it. So, next question. Oh, hey, where's the questions? Okay. Um, Where's the questions again? They're disappearing off the phone. Question number 5 is, why can't I sleep, or why am I having nightmares since discovering the betrayal? I think I already did this one. Did I already go through all of these questions? I think I skipped one. Oh, well. We'll carry on. We already did the sleep one. Number 6 is betrayal trauma. Um, is what I'm feeling actually PTSD? And what you're living through, that's the clinical name. It's not dramatic, it's not weak, it's documented, and I'm going to walk you through it. So, there's an overlap between betrayal trauma and clinical PTSD symptomatology. So, the hypervigilance, where it's constantly scanning, the intrusive memories, which is replaying things over and over at random things. Maybe you're giving your child, a shower and you're thinking about it. Maybe you're eating dinner with the family and everything was pretty cool, and then you're thinking about it. Maybe you're at work and you're, doing what you need to do, working on projects, and then you get stuck into reliving what it is that you found. Um, PTSD and betrayal trauma are not exaggerated symptoms or responses for a partner. They're very real, and it doesn't need to be treated as if it's exaggeration. You want to go to a therapist and start thinking about asking some questions about, am I traumatized? What do I need to do to take care of trauma? There's a lot of nice therapies out there that help you deal with that. Number 7, betrayal trauma. Why do I feel numb instead of angry? So you think that something's wrong with you because you haven't cried, haven't screamed, haven't felt anything. And let me explain why numb is often the first stop, not the missing reaction. Um, you have a freeze response. So fight or flight, energy goes up and you are like running for your life, and that's your way of trying to survive. But there are other people that go into this like freeze response where it's like stop and don't do anything else. You're not able to move forward, you're not able to move sideways. Like it doesn't matter that you want to do something, your brain for some reason is not giving you the information or giving you the cues to move forward. So that's a freeze response. And then it's also meant to be protective. And it usually looks like dissociation. So, dissociation has a variety of descriptions and a variety of uh, definitions. And when I think about dissociation, or what most people think about with dissociation, is that the person is there but not really there. So, you go to a family party and you're enjoying time with the rest of the family, or so it seems, but your head is actually going through the traumas and the crisis that you've been experiencing. And then all of a sudden you're back in the present, you don't know what happened. Not only are you no longer thinking about what happened, you just actually lost a period of time because your brain shut down and said, we don't want to go there. So numbness also is a response that comes into play when you're trying to grieve. Like everything needs to slow down, and your brain and your body need to feel and experience the loss. So, um, okay, let's see what number 8 says. Why do I doubt my own memory of what happened? This one, the doubt of the memory that that happened is that you know, you start hoping that maybe you were wrong, as the person that, is being told about the cheating, the emotional affair, or whatever it is that happened. There's nothing more that some people want in their hearts than to know that maybe they're wrong. And if you have a partner that's steadily denying what they did, using a lot of lying, trying to use the gaslighting, making you think that you're misunderstanding, not aware of all the facts, not thinking clearly, all of those things, well, why wouldn't you have difficulty accepting what's going on? So, um, the thing that the thing that has to happen is that you You need to be able to eventually, um, start your feelings up again. You can't stay in the freeze response forever. So that's the goal, after this, issue with, the memory. At some point, your body starts to say, I think we got all the details and we've already asked the question a lot of times. And if your partner's been supportive and um, leaning into you, then that means that you can start calming your nervous system down. Number nine, why does my body react before my brain? Like panic attacks out of nowhere. You were, maybe folding laundry and suddenly you couldn't breathe. That's not random. That's your body remembering something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. So, you know, people do a lot of tasks and just out of nowhere, the heart starts racing, the breathing becomes difficult. Um, you struggle for words like that. Um, Communication seems to be off, organization seems to be off. So all of those things start happening, and it has to do with your body just trying to remember, and you know the body's also trying to signal. I think we're ready to realize the truth here. Um, let's see. When you have issues with pulling up memory, one of the things that happens has to do with everything being stored in your body in different places. And so you need to be able to, pull that back up. And when you're feeling calmer or you're feeling safe, then you're able to start thinking about these things more clearly. Triggers such as smells, locations, phone sounds, etc., start to come in and uh, can help you pull back the memories that you were trying to bury initially. And the technique here that I would ask you to do is think about doing some deep breathing, because if you've been thinking a lot and you're having difficulty with memory, just being able to slow your brain down and allow it a resting time can do so much for booting up the brain activity again. You know, it's really hard for some people to stop the thinking in circles and the constant reliving. And if you make a concerted effort and tell yourself, no, I'm going to stop, that's a good decision for you. It doesn't mean that you're letting your partner off the hook. It means that you're going to stop and take care of yourself. Okay. Question number um, 10. Why do I feel like I'm grieving someone who's still alive? Um, that's a specific kind of grief for losing someone who never physically left, and almost no one talks about it today. That grieving piece has to do with the fact that you had a vision of what your life was like, and now it's no longer there, and it'll never return to that again, because the truth is now very plainly in sight. Um, there's also this tendency to not talk to people about what's going on with you, and so the grieving that you have for your relationship is done in silence, and you don't have anybody that can show up and support you because you're holding the secret that your partner was holding for so long. Um, I think the other thing is that this loss that you've experienced with the relationship, even if it was to come back online and start to be a healthy relationship again, the fact that there's no timeline to that is overwhelming. And that's one of the first questions I get in my office is, how long will this take? Am I going to be in therapy for, 10 years, or can I be done in a month? What's the thing here? And the truth is that the amount of work and effort that you put in, the quality of, support that you receive from professionals and from your partner, as they finish up their own stabilizing, they might be able to come in and give you some support. More than likely, though, they're seeking support from you, because that's part of their vetting to see if they can trust you again. So, um, let's see. Is he just a sex addict, or is that an excuse for bad behavior? Every week someone tells me that their husband says I'm a sex addict, like that explains everything. Today I'm breaking down when that's true and when it's a very convenient lie. Um, there's a difference between hypersexual and I need to have sex. That could be the body issues, and it does not mean that your, sexual activity gives you permission to go and seek out other relationships or other outlets like massage parlors or, um, use of pornography. If your relationship was based on not using pornography or no discussion had ever happened, then it's another form of betrayal. It's also very compulsive. I heard a Paula Hall, um, Audible the other day, and she talked about how um, important it is for a partner that's been betrayed to understand that pornography is actually about the addictive behavior and how many forces are being put into place to keep a person addicted to this kind of material. And it has nothing to do with the fact that there's no sexual activity or the sexual activity isn't pleasing. A lot of times, if you question, the people that have betrayed, they were seeking something like attachment or attention, or they were also seeking, to replay something that maybe they had in their younger years, or, it's like alcohol. The chemical response is just stuck on and it doesn't go away, and so you just keep wanting more and more of that activity until you are eventually caught. So, let's see. I think the other thing that I wanted to say is that there are some really good assessment tools out there. The ITAP organization gives us access to an assessment that really does give a full picture, like what all components are part of the individual acting out. It's helpful for some people, it's not helpful for others. Your clinician will have to sit and decide, like, what's in the best interest of you. For the most part, people try to use that. It's called an SDI, sexual diagnostic inventory. Sometimes the therapist will make sure that the majority of their patients or clients are receiving that because it gives them the baseline. For those that are needing support in one area, it kind of clearly defines like which type of addictive pattern is present, and what kind of contributing factors there might be, including things like what's your mental health like. Okay, let's see. Question number 12. Did he ever really love me if he could do this? And the question that keeps you up at night, did he ever really love me? I'm going to give you an answer that you won't like, but one that's true. Um, if you felt like your partner loved you, but you also knew that they were doing all of these secretive things and cheating on you, it's very possibly due to the fact that they can compartmentalize. Here's this behavior, and as long as nobody finds out about it, I'm going to keep doing it. And I don't ever consider what happens if my partner, my children, my family, extended family, my friends, my job. I don't think about if somebody finds out about this. I have put this in a box and said this behavior exists here, and I can visit that box as often as I want. And it's the as often as I want is also about entitlement, right? You are only thinking of and considering what's to your benefit. And if acting out, using porn or having affairs, etc., is the answer, then that's the piece that you need to go back in and try to figure out, like, how do I start being more connected with friends, family, kids, partner, and not, um, participating in things that block that connection or those relationships. Let's see. So we talked about hijacking. We talked about risk assessment. In some of the work that I do, I studied with Dr. Omar Minwala, and his Minwala model was shared with us. And he has an extensive list of things that we go through in order to kind of assess, like, contributing factors to the acting out behavior. And that could be things like attachment and how you connect to people from a very young age or in the present if there was some injury or damage. The other piece that we look at is your childhood experiences. It could be within the family or outside the family. So, school issues, other situations where you're relying on adults that maybe aren't trustworthy. There's just a variety of things, rules that don't make sense and cause you to start lying about everything. Well, if you started lying when you were a child because your parents were so harsh with you, when you did tell the truth, it's just too easy to keep that behavior going on. I just remember one of my earlier cases when I first started, the man came in, sat down on the couch, and said, "I'm a liar." And when I heard that, I was like, "Okay." He goes, "I've been lying since I was, a toddler. I just know that it's something I do and I can't stop it. And I believe that I won't be able to stop my pornography use." And he did a lot of work, but across, a couple of years, he was eventually able to understand, like, what fed into the behavior. And he was also able to attend things like Sex Addiction Anonymous meetings. He did, um, you know, book work such as Facing the Shadows. There's a lot of activities in there that help you start looking at the components of your acting out. So, okay, let's see. Question number 13. Why did he risk everything, our marriage, our family, for this? He had everything to lose. He lost it anyway. Today, I'm going to explain the part of the brain that makes that possible. So, addiction's role is hijacking the brain, and the brain's goal is receiving a reward. And so, it's important for you to start thinking about um, how you have trained your brain to override logic. Like, it doesn't make sense that all of these things were at risk, and there was no uh thought to that, but it's a part of the addiction cycle. And once it becomes an issue that's discovered and there's been a commitment to sobriety and recovery, it causes you to be a lot more aware of what's going on around you and to not allow your addictions to take control of your life again. So let's see. 14. Is porn addiction a real addiction, or is it just a bad habit? So, this is one of the most argued about topics in my field, and I'm not going to dodge it. So, here's the real honest answer, both sides. Neurological research on compulsive porn use and reward pathway changes. There is scientific information that says that this is a real issue, and it requires setting up a neural pathway that is constantly being activated. And if you're constantly having an activated neural pathway, the goal when you come into treatment is to figure out what kinds of activities will help you replace that, um, with healthy things. So instead of, you know, engaging in things that reward your brain with like a dopamine hit of, number, 15 on a scale of 0 to 10, that means that now you need to figure out how to get as many of those activities under 10 to be completed so that you can at least stack up close to a 10, like the rest of um, the population that are non-addicts might do. And some people, I can't say that there's some people who don't really actually get pleasure out of life, and that's impacted by things like depression and anxiety. So I think we're doing 14. Um, why did he cheat? Is porn addiction? Let's see. It's not that. Um, oh, why do good men cheat? And so you can have a deacon, a coach, a devoted dad. I've sat across from men like this more times than I can count. And I'm going to tell you what was actually happening underneath it. Again, this goes back to compartmentalizing and learning to split your identity. So, on the outside, everybody sees you one way, have no idea that you have a secret life. And it's that secret life that you've spent so long, crafting all of the details that needed to go into you being able to manage not being caught. It's very overwhelming, and it's also exhausting. So, mm, the other piece that goes along with that is that your tolerance level builds up. Um, the other concerns are that you have an unresolved early trauma or attachment wounds as part of the issue. So, early attachment, we're looking at when you were a small child and your mother was holding you or your father was holding you. As a baby, you knew that if you cried, you were going to get fed, or you were going to get held, or your diaper was going to be changed. And all of those things, a young infant learns. And so that's the beginning of the patterns of learning. And it's really um, makes a difference when you've learned that you can't trust people. So if you had a parent that was a drug addict and never gave you the things that you needed in order to survive, you might learn to do one of two things. The louder you screamed and made a commotion, if there were other people around, they might come and take care of you. Or you might just shut down, and there's no point in making any kind of commotion because nobody's coming. And so if nobody's coming, you might as well save that energy. Um, all right. Number 16. Was I not enough? Is that why he did this? Don't fool yourself. If you've asked yourself, was I not enough even once this week? I need you to remember or hear this before you ask it again. You are enough, and you will make it to the other side. You will figure out what your path will be to a better life. It might be a struggle. Some might find it faster than others. There's no comparison. It's your journey. So, um, so you know, not enough issue might not actually have anything to do with this discovery. If you've been going through your life as a young child, as a school student, you might have learned that you weren't enough, and so now you find out that your partner is acting out and cheating. You might start to think again, of course he did this or she did this because I'm not enough. And that's not true. There's more that goes into this, and that's where a therapist would come into um, play. So um, let's see. Why does he keep lying even after I've caught him red-handed? Um, well, you caught him. Um, there's very real proof, and he still lied to your face. Here's the twisted logic behind that and why it's more common than you'd think. It has to do with shame and guilt. You are trying to move away from or run away from the shame of what you're doing or what you have done, and you turn around and start creating all kinds of stories to try to cover up or block the truth or whatever's real. And so you come up with all different kinds of scenarios. It's not just also that that there's shame sometimes in that answering questions. There tends to be this issue where there's like over explanation, and that also can create um, concerns that he's lying. Why is he giving me so many details? Is he trying to confuse me? That's what it feels like, and that's what it is. Um, and then every time the individual makes an effort or an attempt to go through and be honest and truthful with their partner, it's helping to build them up so that they start to realize that they have another part of themselves that's healthy and can become healthy. So, mm, number 18. What's the actual difference between having an affair and having a sex addiction? So, if you think about traditional addiction, it has to do with the fact that you will engage or indulge in that behavior or that habit at all costs to everything else. And it may be that it's done secretively. And if you are doing something that can't be discussed or shared with a partner, that is, part of the addiction process. Um, if you're having an affair, it could be a one time or two-time event where you connect with someone else and start going down this path of building a connection or a relationship with another person. Your partner, spouse might even know that you have this person as a confidant. This is where things like my work husband and my work wife come into play. If you find yourself using that, stay away from that. The reason that I say that is because it's giving you a message in your brain that stays there, which is it's okay. If our connection increases, it just means we're becoming closer. And then things get more and more things get shared, and eventually more and more dissatisfaction and resentment with your actual partners starts to take over, and eventually leads to you turning to each other, you and the affair partner, um, for a new relationship. So yeah, okay. um again, the addiction has to do with the also the chemical response that goes on in your brain. It's going off, and you know it can go off with pornography, it can go off with flirting. If you're a person that loves to feel like people attract you, and you have a stick that where you're just kind of like constantly going into, look at me, this is what's give me attention. I wonder if I can get your phone number. I wonder if I can get you to smile. I wonder if she can give me extra benefits like a free ticket or something like that. All of those things are meant to help you feel like you are somebody, and it's actually looking for and searching for validation. Unfortunately, that behavior turns around and makes your partner feel invalidated. And so you seeking out validation is having a negative effect on your partner. You just don't see that because you're so focused or wrapped up in the needs that you have. So, all right. And I think, why did he keep going back to it after promising me that he'd stopped? If you've had a partner that keeps going back, it's part of, um, it could be two things. One, they made a promise, but it wasn't done in truth. Because again, remember there's the lying component. The other piece is that you are, um, you're so you have the pattern so ingrained, the habit so ingrained that you are going on autopilot. And then the other thing is, if it was meant to help you self-soothe, and it's what you turn to automatically in the past, it could be the behavior that you choose um, when you're not even thinking about it. I really do like my clients to understand that there's this thing called halt. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired, stressed, and bored? All of those things cause that nervous system to be kind of elevated, escalated, and you need some place for that energy to be discharged. And for a lot of people, that's where the acting out came into play. Oh, I was holding so much anxiety, and my um, actions might say that I need to go ahead and you know get the excitement and the dopamine hit from that. So, um, let's see. So I just want to emphasize that every promise that they made, for the ones that are doing it, really do believe that they are committed to that. What they don't take into account is how much work it's going to do, or how much work it's going to be to stay focused and to be able to understand what triggers might come into play, and to have some, a plan of action for how you manage your behavior and how you manage triggers. So, um, I think the other thing is, sometimes people say, I'm going to do this, and then they white knuckle. I'm just going to stop. The problem with that is very few people are able to just stop. They are, on edge. And do you remember that HALT BS acronym I gave you? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, stressed, bored. You have to think about like that nervous system on fire. And, the brain and the body are going to be like, how do we stop this? How do we put this out? And there you go back to the old way of doing things. So, and I think we're on my last question, because I'm only going to do 20 tonight. And, if any of these were not clear, send me, send me a message on my Instagram um, at Sharing with Cheryl, same as the name of my YouTube channel, and I'll explain it, or I'll make it more detailed so that you can clearly understand it. But this is the last question of the 20 that I plan to do tonight. Is there a certain type of man who becomes a sex addict? Um, you're picturing a certain kind of man right now, and I'm about to show you why that picture is almost always wrong. There's this feeling that if this person is sexually acting out, that they might be kind of this predator type person, and that they're, taking advantage or looking for ways to engage with other people. And so you have this really negative viewpoint of the person, your partner. And okay, I lost my question again. Here we go. Um, okay, here we go. So the other piece is, well, if they're cheating, they must be like low character, or they didn't want to be married anyway. Like, those are not necessarily true. There's people that love the marriage that they're in. It's the behavior maybe that they've learned for a long time, or a period in time where they started using that behavior, and it just kept cycling through. Other things that I've talked about before is that there was development that might have impacted the need to, self-soothe, or find ways to get all of that pent up or built up energy out. And, until you start learning more and more skills to take care of that, I call them tools. like deep breathing, meditation, exercise, eating well. Like a lot of that stuff has to do with helping your body and your brain do a reset. Um, let's see. Also, I wanted to just emphasize that addiction isn't just like your average person. Um, if you have a viewpoint that certain people are not going to have, problems with this, and those people are, closer to, just those people are people to be highly regarded. It could be things like maybe it's a parental figure or, um, an extended family member. It could be someone in your leadership at your company. I think we all remember that that one incident with the CEO and his human resources person. Um, let's see. The other, yeah, it's Coldplay. That's what it was. I was like, what was the name of that band? Yeah, it was Coldplay. People of Christians, people of faith, like pastors, um, all of those individuals are people that can also succumb to the addiction process. And it doesn't have anything to do with your status, your character, etc. So, um, I hope these first 20 questions were helpful to you. And like I said, if you have more questions, reach out to me. I will do another live that has the next 20 questions until I finish up the whole 100. And I hope you have a good night and see you in the next live. Bye. Mm.